Well, good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRN AM for Tuesday, May 17th, 2022. And our top story today, keeping things safe when you hit the water this summer. Well, joining me now to discuss this and a lot more, Jim Emmons is an executive director with the Water Sports Foundation. Jim, great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for inviting me to join you.
Yeah, this is great. And look, I mean, summertime is right around the corner, and a lot of people own boats and they want to get out on the water, whether it's a lake, whether it's an ocean. But there are some things that people really need to follow. And there are a lot of new boaters out there, Jim. I think by estimations from the Water Sports Foundation, I think somewhere in the neighborhood of 415,000 new boaters this year. Get your thoughts on that.
Well, yes, we've done some research with a company called InfoLink, which monitors boat registrations. And for the last 2 years in a row, over 400,000 new boaters have poured into the market. It was all started by the pandemic and social distancing. People saw the water as a way to get out of their house, have some fun, recreate, and to social distance at the same time. So it just created a deluge of new boaters on the market. And that was initially very concerning because, new boaters may not necessarily be educated boaters. And we were concerned that there could be, an uptick in the numbers. And so, but fortunately, the groups that help boater education were able to pivot in a short fashion, and were able to provide some boater education for boaters. We did see an uptick in the numbers. 2020, according to the U.S. Coast Guard, 25.5% increase in incidents, which includes casualties and accidents. That's not something we typically see in a normal year, so it was a bit of an anomaly. But we're also seeing that going into 2021, those numbers will be out next month. That the same sort of numbers are going to be shown or recorded for 2021, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's a downside. Anytime you're new at something and you don't have the expertise and experience, there's a learning curve. Whether you're riding a bike, getting in a car, riding a motorcycle, whatever, you got to learn the rules of engagement, so to speak, the rules of the road. Jim, let's talk about if I'm familiar with a car, and I've driven a car since I was 16. That was many moons ago. How easy or difficult is it to port over those skills of yielding to traffic, driving the boat versus driving the car, making sure that you're doing all the right things, signaling to other boaters? How easy is it to bring that stuff over?
So that's a very good question. A lot of times people look at a boat and the cockpit looks much like that of a car. There's a steering wheel, a seat, just like you find in your car, and they make the assumption that driving a boat is just like driving a car, which is really not true. I mean, some things are similar in that you do turn the wheel to the left or right to turn the same way you do a car, but throttling's different. And then, of course, you mentioned a minute ago, rules of the road, navigation, understanding, what is the right of way or the way to transport yourself on the boat with other boaters on the water. There aren't roads or lines on roads like lines on the water like there are on the roads. So people can navigate just about anywhere they want to, but there's certain, in navigation, there's ways to, when you come across another boat, to handle that situation. And it's important, I think, for new boaters to learn that. And that's where taking a boater education course, in some states, in most states, you can find a free boater education course. The one in particular is provided by Boat US, which is kind of the equivalent to AAA for your car. Their course is incredibly easy to take. And even if you're a seasoned boater, like I took the course last year for the first time in many years, and I couldn't believe how many things I had either forgotten or didn't know. So you always pick up new tips when you take a boater education course.
Yeah, absolutely. And I completely agree. We're always lifetime learners, and sometimes you forget things, whether it's things related to finance, things related to driving, things related to boating. Jim, as you were talking about safety, one of the things that came to mind, and I'm not a boater. I have to take a lot of Dramamine when I get out on a boat, but I'm still working through that. But let's talk about maybe some safety. I wanted to get into safety tips in the second segment, but let's just talk about things in general. If I see a bigger boat, let's just say a cruise ship, you happen to be in the Orlando area, Orlando, Florida, a lot of cruise ships, a lot of big yachts, big boats. If I'm a small boat, you really have to yield to these bigger boats. Unlike on the road where you have a 18-wheeler, they're on the road, you kind of have parity with them, even though they're bigger, you got to watch out. But this is an example of what you're talking about, which is you got to make sure you're yielding to the bigger boat and make sure you don't cross currents or cross paths with them.
Well, most boating occurs on smaller waterways that are not navigable by the larger commercial vessels. But in the chance that you find yourself on a waterway that is also a commercial vessel body of water, like a cruise ship, we always tell people that the best idea is to stay out of the channel. You know, there's a channel that's clearly marked that will be the area in which the commercial vessels will travel back and forth. Never raft up or anchor inside the channel. Always pull off to the side of the channel, away from the lane, if you will, where commercial traffic's going to be passing. And we created a video about this about 2 years ago, and then did one again a year ago. It was all about congested waterways. And as the pandemic came on board and people got out and started boating more, certain areas like Pittsburgh, for example, in Three Rivers area, San Diego in Southern California, the port of San Francisco, people were recreating in these commercial channels. And in some cases, friends would call out, "Hey, let's go to a certain spot and let's raft up together," and they'd anchor off right in the middle of the channel. And so here comes, a ferry boat that hauls 500 people from one point to another point across that channel, and ferry boat they can't stop quickly. The big commercial vessels can't stop quickly at all. In fact, when they pull up throttle, it takes them a long way to bring that thing to stop. So we created this video just to keep people, make them mindful of the fact that commercial vessels are using this waterway, and that if you're going to do something like raft up, which is fun, it's a great time to raft up together with your friends, just do it outside of the channel.
Yeah. Jim, let me ask you, before we go to break, I want to ask you about jet skiing. All this apply to jet skiing. I remember as a young boy going to Orlando, Disney World with my brother. He got on a jet ski. He's 2 years younger than I am. I think we were probably 12. Back then, he could get on a jet ski, and he got pulled over by the whatever. He got in trouble. I guess he was being a little bad at what he was doing and not following the rules of what we're talking about here. But the same applies to jet skis. I remember seeing them kind of jump over the waves. You really have to watch out, not only for the big boats, but the little boats, other jet skis, rafts, kayaks, all things in between.
Well, we just released another video. It's in fact, it's at Coast Guard headquarters for approval. I thought actually we got approval this morning. It's all about personal watercraft safety, and it's done in a very clever, very humorous way. If you're interested in checking that out, it'll be available on our YouTube channel, which you can find through our watersportsfoundation.com webpage. But personal watercraft are highly maneuverable, so and they're super fast, and they're a lot of fun. But as such, personal watercraft riders must be careful that making quick turns, sharp turns, is usually one of the things that causes accidents the most. Always look over your shoulder before you make a turn, because there could be another vessel coming in that direction. You could just be turning right into them. So the other thing to note about personal watercraft is they only steer when there's thrust on the jet nozzle, and that means you got to be using the throttle. So if your throttle is engaged, at half or even full speed, you'll have great turning ability. But when you let off that throttle, you're basically gliding in a straight path, and the jet skis don't turn unless the throttle is engaged. And lots of newcomers to personal watercraft, it takes them a while to learn that.
Yeah, and I'm glad we're talking about it here. They certainly can check out the videos. We'll kind of post a link below. Jim, I need to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about tips to keep you safe. If you're getting out on the water this Memorial Day and into the summer, you're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms, especially for the smaller businesses? I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
Are you over 50? Would you like to get up to 33% more income in retirement? Then call now for this free book, Annuity Do's and Don'ts for Baby Boomers. This free book reveals little-known secrets about annuity strategies that will help you make the right choices before buying an annuity. Call right now for your free book, and as a bonus, we'll also throw in a free annuity rate report, both absolutely free for calling Annuity General today.
Call 800-504-8194.
Welcome back. We're talking boating this morning, what you need to do if you're going to get back out on the water this Memorial Day and into the summer. And very pleased to have Jim Emmons. He is Executive Director of the Water Sports Foundation. Jim, thanks so much for sticking with us this morning.
Glad to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Let's talk about tips, and I want to start with safety. Well, these are all safety tips, but let's start with life preservers. How important is it to have a life preserver for every member of for every member on the boat?
Well, in all 56 states and territories, there's a thing called Carriage Requirements. It starts at the federal level, but then the states have also adopted laws. They vary a little bit from state to state, so it's important for everyone to check with their state regulations. But the Carriage Requirements basically require that there be a life jacket on board for every person on your vessel during that outing, and that the life jacket fit properly. So, you can have say 6 life jackets underneath the seat, and you might bring some kids on board that day. If those are not child-sized life jackets, you could find yourself in trouble with the authorities should you get pulled over. We like to say, though, it's important that everybody wears a life jacket at all times. The Carriage Requirements don't quite go that far, but in the event that there's an accident, it's impossible to put a life jacket on during or before that accident occurs. So instead of finding yourself suddenly thrust in the water and then trying to pull a life jacket out of a sinking boat or whatever, it's just a good idea to find a comfortable, good fitting life jacket and wear it all the time.
Jim, we often buckle up when we get into our cars. In fact, I think it's a law in all 50 states. Could be wrong on that, but you're supposed to buckle up. Should we be buckling up when we get into a boat? Whether it's a sailboat, a power boat, etc.
Well, not in the true sense of buckling up like a seat belt, but coincidentally, we put together now 2 or 3 versions of a video PSA for the Coast Guard and for recreational boating safety, where we compare life jacket wear to seatbelt wear. And seatbelt wear in America is ubiquitous. People get in a car, and for the most part, most Americans snap the seatbelt as soon as they get in. But what we don't find is true is that in a boat, people don't necessarily jump in a boat with a life jacket on or put one on once they get in the boat. So we did some videos, some very cleverly designed videos where folks were not wearing seat belts or not wearing life jackets, and we compared the accident situations that might occur. In fact, in the auto situation, a truck runs a stop sign, and there's going to be a collision, and the person in the front seat that we saw earlier did not put the seatbelt in, reaches for the seatbelt and tries to click the seatbelt in a split second before an accident occurs. And obviously we all know that won't happen. Then we do to draw the same comparison in a boat, where all of a sudden a boater realizes that there's about to be a collision of two boats on the lake, and the passenger starts scrambling underneath the seats looking for the life jackets. And, again, it's just impossible to get that done that quickly. So, we draw that same comparison. We think it's a great comparison. People do wear wear seatbelts in their cars. But, we've done, the Coast Guard's done studies, only about 6 to 7% of American boaters wear their life jackets at all times. And it's the number one cause of death in boating is drowning. 86% of those involved in an accident were not wearing a life jacket. So if we can just get life jacket wear improvements, we think we can save a lot of lives.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes without saying, it's just logical. And I think you can look cool wearing a life jacket. I don't know. I've seen them. I think they look kind of cool. And, I don't see why you wouldn't want to do that. Why would you want to get hurt?
Well, the new technology,
happened.
Sorry, I'm walked on you there. The new technology in the lightweight inflatable life jackets, they look like suspender style. They just sort of slip over your neck, and there's these two sort of cylinder tubes here. They strap around behind your back. Auto inflate. If you fall in the water, they just automatically pop open, and you've got this thing you slip over your head. Some are made as sort of a fanny pack, like a belt pack. And same thing. You go in the water, they auto inflate. These auto inflate life jackets are really the way to go. They're lightweight. They're comfortable. It's you can't use them for children, but you can use them for adults.
Yeah. Well, you're taking me back. I'm now having flashbacks of Camp Wonderland in Baltimore. And getting on the lake with a life preserver. Last question, Jim, and I think this is a topic that's really important, because we had the same issue on the road, drinking and driving and sobriety. And there have been numerous PSAs about people shouldn't drink and drive, yet it still happens. Is this an issue for boaters, for boating, knowing when to say when? It's fun, it's exciting, but there are rules around sobriety, and you need to be sober in order to, I would think, to drive a boat. I guess you don't need to be, but you should be.
Yeah. So, we like to say have a sober skipper, at least one person that remains, avoids the alcohol that day. But we've also done the same thing we did with life jackets with the alcohol situation compared to cars. And one of our producers said one day, he goes, he had some younger folks in the room, and he said, would you get in a car with someone at the steering wheel of a car that could reach within arm's distance a cooler full of beer or some other kind of alcoholic beverage and was planning to drink those while driving? And everyone in the room said, no, absolutely not. So this whole norm about not drinking and driving has really gotten better over the years with on the roads. But in a boat, for some reason, it's just part of the boating experience. You throw a cooler full of beer on your boat or whatever, and it becomes what you do. And so we've been doing our best to try to bring this subject to the forefront. The number one leading contributing factor to boating accidents involving a death is the use of alcohol. So if boaters would just simply designate someone to stay sober, or maybe avoid the alcohol altogether, save it for when you get everyone back safely to the dock, we know that we can save a lot of lives. Yeah.
Last question, Jim. Let's talk about authorities on the boating lanes on the water. Are there you mentioned the Coast Guard, but are there people that can pull you over? Effectively police that can pull you over, and what types of penalties can people face if they don't follow the proper rules? Is it like a car where you can get a ticket, go to jail if you're excessive speeding and doing crazy things with the vehicle?
Well, you're absolutely right. There are rules on the water, just like they are on a road. There are law enforcement agencies that patrol the water, just like they do on the road. It depends on the body of water. For national waters, it's the Coast Guard, and maybe in a parks situation, it could be National Park Service. The Army Corps of Engineer has a number of lakes that they manage, but usually it's their state agency. And here in Florida, it's Florida Fish and Wildlife. And what's really interesting is I just attended a seminar last week, Life Jacket Association seminar, where some folks from the Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission came in and made a presentation. And the thing they told us was as many as 85 to 95% of the stops that they make, they do not write a citation. So you might be in violation, like say you're in a no wake zone and you're making a wake. Or maybe the officer, sees someone sitting on a gunnel and says, wait a minute, I want to make sure they've got life jackets, whatever. They may pull you over. As much as 85 to 90% of the time, no citations are issued. And what they explained was they find these as boater education instances, and they spend those moments educating boaters, how to be a safer boater. I thought that was really interesting because, usually think of the long arm of the law as the hammer that's going to come down and say, you did something wrong and we're going to punish you. And here's your citation for $250 or whatever it might be. Now, they did explain that, if you're BUI over the limit, that you're probably going to get arrested for BUI, boating under the influence. The other one was if they'd written you a warning in the past, and in the state of Florida, they have a warning system, just like a ticket system, where they'll put the warning into the system. And if another officer pulls over that same boater and sees that there was a warning given, a week or 2 weeks earlier, and the boater is still doing the same thing, well, they're going to get a citation at that point then too. So, but yeah, you're absolutely right. It's just like on our roadways. They're there to help enforce the rules and the laws and make sure that everyone has a good, safe time on the water.
Well, Jim, let's hope that people, especially all these new boaters, they approach boating safely. All the old boaters or existing boaters approach it safely. And they hope that people have a great summer on the water. Jim Emmons, great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to having you back on the program again very soon.
Thank you very much.
That wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to? Drop us a line, and don't forget, for all the latest curated news in lifestyle, wellness, finance, tech, so much more, all in one place, check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. And hint, it's free. Want to search our archives, check out our latest content? We'll visit our website, that's www.broadcastretirementnetwork.com, and our streaming partners. We're back again tomorrow for another edition of BRN AM. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.
But if you're tired of the same
Now is your opportunity to co-create content around any topic on the first lifestyle and wellness network. Reach a global audience through our platform and co-own exclusive branded content. All of our programs are available on demand and also as audio-only podcasts, so you can take us on the go. Broadcast Retirement Network, available anytime, anywhere, and on any device.
Are you being audited and do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Is the IRS threatening to take more of your money? Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you negotiate your tax bill and reduce your stress. The IRS can freeze your assets and seize your bank accounts, but you can stop these IRS actions. The Tax Doctor will work with you using our years of experience to represent your case to help you get the best resolution under the IRS guidelines. Help is here to deal with the IRS to reduce your stress. We've handled thousands of cases, so we know what we're doing. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, do not call the IRS alone. Call a Tax Doctor now for a tax emergency analysis.
Call 800-224-6439.